Good afternoon, respected sir and my dear friends. Welcome to the presentation on saving water and the role of computer science and technology in it. Today, Subir Sarkar, Soumabha Biswas, and Debrup Pramanik have got the privilege to show a presentation and discuss with you a very interesting topic. Today, we will discuss about water pollution and find a few effective solutions and methods for it using the help of computer science and technology. Water is one of the basic requirements of almost all living organisms known to us. Many organisms have 90% water in them. We humans are made up of almost 70% water. So, where do we get this water here on Earth? Well, it's pretty easy, right? Earth is our blue planet and we have ample of water. In fact, we have more water than there is land on Earth. But wait, there is a catch to it. About 96% of the Earth's water supply is in the oceans, where its high salt content makes it unsuitable for consumption for almost all terrestrial organisms. They support only marine aquatic life. 2% of the water resource is locked up in the glaciers and polar ice caps. Again, not useful directly. The remaining 2% is the only fresh water that is available to us for consumption and other uses. Though it seems we only have a meager 2% for almost all terrestrial beings, it is actually enough for all. However, you may wonder if everyone uses up the water, then how is the amount of available water restored? Fortunately, nature has us covered with the hydrological cycle. The hydrological cycle is a continuous natural process which helps in the exchange of water between the atmosphere, the land, the sea, the living plants, and animals. I am sure many of us are aware of this. I will tell its significant steps one by one. Firstly, there's massive evaporation of water from the oceans. Then there is cloud formation, which is then we have precipitation, and then we have surface runoff and groundwater movements. Then the water in the form of river flows to the oceans, and this process repeats to form a cycle. Now, some of the main sources of fresh water are surface water, which includes flowing water, mainly consisting of streams and rivers. And then there is still water, which are basically lakes, ponds, and reservoirs. Then we have underground water, water from the wells and springs. And at last, we have rainwater. Now, I would like my teammate Subir Sarkar to carry on the presentation and enlighten us about water pollution.
Good afternoon to everyone present over here. Let's get some perception on water pollution. Next slide. Going by the definition, water pollution is defined as the release of substance into water bodies that makes water unsafe for human use and disrupts aquatic ecosystem. Next slide. Water pollution can be caused by a excess of different contaminants, including toxic waste, petroleum, and disease-causing microorganisms. Some main causes and contributors to the water pollution are untreated waste from industrial areas and factories add harmful chemicals and toxins into the water body. Untreated sewage from municipality drainage outlets, plastics and other household waste dumped directly, pesticides, fertilizers, insecticides, and other toxins. Next slide. Some of pollutants of water and their effects are as follows. Oxygen demanding waste. One of the most important measures of water quality is the amount of dissolved oxygen DO present in it. Oxygen demanding waste are substances that oxidize in the receiving body of water, reducing the amount of dissolved oxygen available in the water. Oxygen demanding waste are generally biodegradable organic substance contained in municipal waste water or emissions from certain industries such as food processing and paper production. The oxidation of inorganic compounds may also contribute to the oxygen demanding waste. Next slide. Uh, some of the effects of drop of dissolved oxygen in water bodies are if DO drops, fish and other aquatic life are threatened and in extreme cases killed. The effect of reduced DO results in undesirable odors, taste and colors, reduce the acceptability of water as a domestic supply and recreational purpose. Next slide. Pathogens. Pathogens are disease-producing organisms that grow and multiply within the host. The resulting growth of microorganisms in a host is known as infection. They mainly originate from infected carcass disposed in water bodies and waste that contain them. Few examples of pathogens are bacteria, viruses, protozoa, etc. Next slide. Excessive nutrients. Nutrients are chemicals such as nitrogen, phosphorus, carbon, sulfur, iron, etc. That are essential for the growth of living things. The nutrients can be considered as pollutants when concentration is sufficient to allow excessive growth of aquatic plants, particularly algae. Some of the effects of excessive nutrients are nutrient enrichment can lead to blooms of algae, which prevents the entry of sunlight into the water bodies. As a result, aquatic plants along with algae die. The bacteria present in water now decompose all the dead plants. This phenomenon is also known as eutrophication. The decomposition removes oxygen from the water, which ultimately reduces the level of DO in the water. The depletion of dissolved oxygen leads to the death of fish and other aquatic animals and plants. Algae and decaying organic matter add color, odor, turbidity, and objectionable taste to the water that are difficult to remove and that may greatly reduce its acceptability as a domestic water source. Now, I would like to invite my friend Soumabha to continue.
Thank you, Shubit. Good afternoon, everyone. Farming and irrigation. The irrigation drainage water runoff pollutes the water body by increasing salt concentration. Chemicals like insecticides, pesticides also run off toward water bodies and pollute them by introducing harmful toxins such as nitrates and other compounds. Thermal pollution. In thermal power plants, nuclear power plants, etc., where the water from the nearby river or lakes is used as a coolant, the waste hot water is returned to the original water body, and on an average, the temperature is raised by 10 degrees Celsius. Metabolic rates tend to increase with the increase in temperature, generally by a factor of 2 for each 10 degrees Celsius rise in temperature. The rise in temperature decreases the amount of dissolved oxygen in water, adversely affecting the aquatic life. Next slide. Heavy metals. Heavy metals are referred to as metals with specific gravity greater than 4 or 5. The most important heavy metals pollutants are mercury, lead, cadmium, and arsenic. Chromium and iron are essential nutrients in our diet, but in higher doses are extremely toxic. Industries are main contributors of the heavy metals found in water bodies. Next slide. Oil pollution. This typically happens on oceans, more often due to oil spills, from oil container ships transporting oil or while transferring it in ports. Oil floats on water, blocking sunlight and oxygen to go underneath it. It is even toxic to marine life, which come directly in contact with the steel. Plastic pollution. This happens everywhere, especially where people do their daily activities or mainly tourism. Plastic items, often bags, are deliberately thrown on water bodies, which result in the harm of aquatic life. It blocks sunlight and oxygen. It also converts the water body into a breeding ground for pathogens and parasites. Next slide. Now let's discuss about pollution control. At first, we have to diagnose the water of its problem. Here's where monitoring plays a huge role and is basically the initial step of pollution control. There are various monitoring methods that we can apply to check very water quality. Like dissolved oxygen is pretty crucial and we indirectly measure it with biochemical oxygen demand test and chemical oxygen demand test. The lower the value, higher will be the amount of dissolved oxygen in the water. We can also monitor water turbidity and pH as they are pretty important factors in an area. pH disbalance is suitable and are usually caused due to acid rains and other industrial waste. Hence, regular monitoring is required. Monitoring is good, but only when we know how to reduce the negative impact. Well, it's simple in theory, but they are not applied mostly due to ignorance. The theory is to keep the pollutants away from the water body. Next slide. Sewage treatment is one of the key things in pollution control. The most effective solution is the effective sludge treatment. The essential features of process are an aeration tank where the organic matter is brought into intimate contact with the sludge from the secondary clarifier. The sludge is heavily laden with microorganisms which are in an active state of growth. Air is introduced into the tank either in form of bubbles through the diffusers or by surface aerators. The microorganisms utilize oxygen in the air and convert the organism matter containing nitrogen and phosphorus into stabilized, low energy compounds such as nitrates, phosphates, carbon dioxide, water, and synthesis new bacterial cells. The effluent from the aeration tank containing the flocculent biomass, known as sludge, is separated in a settling tank, sometimes called secondary settler or clarifier. These solids settle out in the settler and a fraction of them is discarded. Part of the solid is recycled as return sludge to the head of the aeration tank and comes into contact with the fresh sewage. The combination of high concentration of new cells in the return sludge and a rich food source in the influent sewage provides optimum condition for waste degradation. Next slide. This excess sludge gets sludge treatment where acid-forming bacteria decompose the organic matter into similar forms. Then these bacteria are further decomposed by methane-forming bacteria. This methane and other end products then can be used as a fuel source, as biogas, which is a renewable source of energy. So we get both clean water and a clean energy source. It is truly efficient process. Also, the solid waste also can be used as organic manure for agricultural fields. Next slide. This is actually one method of sewage treatment. There are many other treatments like oxidation pond treatment, trickling filters, etc. The main challenge is the cost effectiveness and availability and accessibility contribute the overall effectiveness of these techniques. Thus, it differs from place to place. And let me remind you that all that we discussed till now was only for sewage treatment. We have so many more other pollutants like chemicals, suspended soils, oils, dissolved solids, etc. We have many processes and techniques to deal with each of them. We are already familiar with some process like reverse osmosis, which is used in many filters in our home to filter out dissolved solids. and UV purification to deal with microbes and pathogens. I barely scratched the surface of pollution control of water. To study each process and techniques could take countless years. This is where my teammate Debrup will enlighten us and give some insights to deal with such mammoth of tasks.
Thank you, Soumabha, for explaining what a huge task we have to accomplish to make the water clean again. However, we have got the support of computer science and technology in the journey of saving water on Earth. We all are familiar with the benefits of computer science and technology in our lives, especially during the pandemic. Our everyday lives depend on their help heavily. What if I tell you that they can make water pollution control a lot easier and more efficient? That is the magic of computer science and technology, that they can help in solving any problem in Earth and beyond, if not outright solving them directly. Prevention is always better than the cure. That is true in every aspect, not only in the case of diseases, but even for us in the case of water pollution. Believe it or not, we, the common people, also contribute to pollute the water bodies. So there is clearly a lack of awareness among the people. So we can organize online shows and display ads in general public interest in social media sites, etc. Writing and making motion pictures describing the consequences of water pollution is also effective in bringing a positive change in people's behavior. This is one of the major things that we can start doing in our country, in India, at this very moment I am speaking. We need to stop polluting and limit the use of plastics. For industries, it is a both hectic and profit decreasing task to take care for water. They have to dump the waste no matter what. So the easiest way is to dump the wastewater directly in water bodies. Even if they dump it on the ground, it will seep into the groundwater and cause water pollution and lead to various diseases in those who depend on that groundwater or aquifer. Monitoring and regular checking of industries should be done by the government to prevent ignorance and irresponsibility by the industries. Every monitor region's data will be maintained in the database, and the trends generated will clearly show which industry is taking enough steps or not. Now, you might think, what choice do the industry owners have? They have to go through a lot of hassle to use a method or technique and probably lessen their profit margins. But don't worry, AI and Internet of Things have got them covered, at least in the planning and designing phase. Let's take a look with an imaginary example. Sham owns a new steel factory. He earns a reasonable profit. However, he has noticed that his factory produces a lot of metal byproducts and has nowhere but a nearby river outlet to dispose the wastewater. His rival Ram has the same problems, but instead disposes the wastewater to a barren landfill. Ram had used this method to escape from the direct water pollution in the nearby river. However, after a few years, the nearby village had polluted groundwater. After an investigation, it was seen that the barren land had same collective aquifer below. Hence, the wastewater that was being dumped by Ram's factory actually seeped into the ground aquifer and polluted the groundwater below. Since the village used this groundwater, the health of all living beings who consumed the groundwater or were dependent on it deteriorated gradually. The government found Ram's factory to be responsible and is currently facing huge charges. This even scared Sham. He does not know what to do with the wastewater. Fortunately, he had applied for integration of his factory with the IoT network, which is currently expanding and connecting industries. He also has help of an AI program that he integrated with the monitoring systems of his factory. This AI program is connected to the IoT database. The AI detects the contaminants with the help of the monitoring systems in place. It then suggests a technique that Sham can apply to treat the wastewater. The AI suggests him to build a reverse osmosis chamber to treat the wastewater. Now, this suggestion is based on the data generated from the IoT network. It calculates the cost of raw materials, machinery, transport costs, and taxes, even future maintenances. Then it calculates the overall cost and takes the efficiency of the technique into consideration and uses decisions to make a final suggestion to Shyam. Hence, technology has made the task super easy for Shyam. He can use this and get results in an instant and even from his home. If this was not there, then he had to hire a lot of technicians and advisors and probably spend months to get to a conclusion. Now, with this info, he can order everything from his closest dealers, the raw materials and machinery online. There also, technology helps him do this. This was a very small example. The possibilities are almost limitless. Few other examples of technology helping in controlling water pollution are: we can use RC boats or drones for monitoring water bodies, all with the help of technology. We can prevent oil spills by using worker drones to prevent oil spilling all over water and emergency repairs. RC boats can accumulate and filter out floating plastic on oceans, lakes, ponds, etc. The best part is we can automate the process with the help of AI. We can even schedule routines and provide regular monitoring and checkup. However, as I told earlier, that prevention is always better than the cure. We must be responsible for our actions. We must always avoid polluting water bodies. If we have no other choice but to use water bodies to dispose, then we must ensure that we treat the wastewater first and then release it to the outer water body. We as individuals should also remain responsible and limit the use of plastics. Together, we can stop water pollution. If we remain cautious and responsible, then we can lower water pollution levels throughout the whole world. Now we are grateful for the following materials that helped us in making this presentation. Firstly, we have the book Fundamentals of Environment and Ecology by Dr. Debrup and Dr. Debashish De. And secondly, we have various news articles spread across the internet. Finally, I would like to thank each one of you who are present here to patiently bearing with us throughout the whole presentation. I would like to give special thanks to our respected sir, Professor Shomojit Ghorai, for giving us the opportunity to make a presentation on this interesting topic and letting us present it in front of you all. Thank you and have a nice day.